Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Wednesday evening service. My name is Reverend Mary Morgan, and tonight, my topic will be blessings upon blessings. So, Christmas time is a time when we really do focus on what the blessings are in our life. And as we're wrapping our presents for folks, we're giving them the presents because we're conveying to them that we believe they're a blessing in our life and we would like to give them a gift to share our love with them. So it's fitting that tonight's topic about blessings is the focus of what exactly is a blessing. Now, if you were to look it up in the dictionary, it has some very interesting definitions. It's something to be grateful for. It's the protection of God. It's favor of God. And it's a thing conducive of happiness and good welfare. Now, I'd like to discuss how we can begin to live our lives more fully in thought of a blessing as every day, thereby experiencing more goodness each and every day. And if we do so, if we begin to watch all of our blessings, what we focus on really does expand, and you will see that more and more blessings occur in your life. And maybe they were occurring all along, but you just didn't focus on them, so they went right by you. Now, what if we were to live every day of our life as though it really were a blessing? Now, if you've ever talked to anyone that's had a health challenge or has been through some very, very tough or difficult times, and now their life is worked out okay, they say to you, my life is such a blessing now, I have nothing to complain about. Boy, before things looked pretty dire, but now life has really worked out for me. So their perspective is very, very different, and they've had that opportunity to have that rebooting of their life, I'd say. This teaching reminds us that all of life is a blessing, and it's about being God-focused. And it's really about really living from the inside out and realizing that God within us is always guiding us and is only in the wait for us to say what it is that we are declaring about our life, right? The moment we acknowledge the power and the presence of God, we begin to realize there's really very little that we need in our life to make us happy and to make us feel as though it's a blessing, isn't it? Remembering that, it's not the things that we have or the things that we want. It's the feeling that those things that we have or want bring to us, isn't it? It isn't the beautiful blouse or the big giant paycheck or the fancy sparkly car, right? It isn't that. It's the feeling that it gives us that when we have that thing in our life. Now let's talk about relationships for a second, because they're our biggest blessing, aren't they? So with relationships, we, again, take this time now as we're giving gifts to folks to acknowledge that they're a blessing in our lives. But other than Christmas time, how often do you tell your friends what a blessing that they are? How could you begin some daily practices? What is something that you could do right now to start setting the pattern of acknowledging blessing in your life? So I've written down a couple. First of all, in thinking of the people in our lives, for the special, we thank them for the special and even the ordinary things that they do in our life, just for being in our presence and the light that they bring into our presence. Now, in thanking the people in our lives, I encourage you also to thank, even if it's just in your mind, to thank those people that we find to be a bit difficult or that give us a lot of trouble, right? And why the heck would we thank those people? Because they're bringing light into an area of us that is shut down. And they've been brought to us as a gift. And the moment you focus on that difficult person as being a gift in your life, all of a sudden you'll go looking for the gift, right? So bless the person that's difficult. Thank them. Thank them for the light that they're bringing into your experience, even if it's the opportunity to love their pointy little head, right? Another aspect about relationships, how about praising others? You know how good it feels when someone gives you a compliment or praises you or really acknowledges something that you've done. Think about sharing that praise with other people, not in a phony way, but just saying, I really like the way you say this, or this really means something to me when you butter my toast the way you do, or whatever it is. Acknowledge something that they've done and the joy that they've brought to your life, and it will grow. Spend time with others, and when you do spend time with them, listen to them. even in this time of COVID, there's the opportunity to Zoom. I Zoom call at least twice a week. I have different groups of folks that I touch base with. And there's something about being in the company of others. It keeps us mindful of ourselves. It inspires us. And it just makes us feel more comfortable in our skin. The other idea of increasing your blessings is to take time to honor yourself. Take time to take care of yourself. You know, there's the words of that beautiful song, "Take good care of yourself, you belong to me." Remember that. Just picture God saying that to you. Take good care of yourself, you belong to me. Honor yourself and honor the integrity in your life. Focus on it and it will expand. Now we know from this teaching that the universe responds to you and me the way we respond to it. The universe responds to us the way we respond to it. So there's a story about a man that is going to move into a town, and he goes into the coffee shop and he sees a gentleman sitting up at the little bar at the thing at the little countertop. And he sits down. He said, "Hey, I'm thinking about moving to this town. Do you have a minute?" And the guy goes, "Yeah, sure." He says, "Well, what kind of a town is this?" And the guy says, "Well, what kind of a town did you come from?" And he goes, "Oh, it was awful. People were terrible. The drivers were rotten. Taxes were high. People were nasty. Nobody was friendly with one another. It was just awful." And the guy goes, "Well, this town's pretty much going to be the same." And the guy goes, "Oh, well, thanks for your honesty." Guy's sitting at the booth there again, and up walks another guy, and he says, "Hey, my wife and I are thinking about moving to this town. What kind of a town is this?" And the guy says, "Well, what kind of a town did you come from?" He goes, "Oh, we love our town. We have such wonderful friends. Everybody in the shops, they're friendly. They say hello. There's no taxes. Everything's a blast there. We just love it." He goes, "You're going to find that same kind of town." Now, what's the moral of that story? That wherever you go, you take you with you, right? Wherever you go, you take you with you. So what we are focusing on will expand. So what we are seeking, it is there. Now, Raymond Charles Barker says, heaven exists, but it only exists to the extent that we can see it. And if we're not seeing heaven, it's because we're not focusing on it. So how do you focus on it? The world is heaven, but because we're not seeing it, it's not there. So how do you get there? How do you get clarity on that? Well, first of all, you clarify your vision. If you see something as a blessing, it will be a blessing. When you have something that you don't want in your life, that you don't see as a blessing, remember that you have it because there's a subconscious pattern in you that has created what you don't want. Think about that for a second. If you have something in your life that you don't want, there is a subconscious pattern in you that has created what you don't want. But remember, we are creative beings, and whatever we've created, we can think again and create anew, right? By denying the pattern of what you don't want, by taking your mind off that problem and affirming what it is that you do want, instead, you've now induced into your consciousness a new concept, and it imprints it into your subconscious pattern, and it will produce the like, right? The law of subconscious takes that and produces what you want. Remember, the subconscious is always the producer, but it's the conscious mind that is the decider. So every moment, every opportunity, every experience that we're having, we get to decide, what do I want? How do I want to see this? Is this a blessing or a curse? And whatever way you make up your mind will determine the outcome. So there's a very famous little booklet, and many of you may be aware of it, written by Emmett Fox, called The Golden Key. And it is very famous for its famous saying, "Take your mind off the problem and put your mind on God." Now, what does that mean? That means stop thinking about what you don't want. Just put your mind on God. God is, I am. If you're stuck and if you're in a pickle and you can't think your way out of anything and everything's just bothering you, just stop and breathe and say, God is and I am. And I'm telling you, things will open up for you. Why? Because you've given God the space to flow through you again. When you're tight in thinking and you've got it all figured out and it sure doesn't look great, There's no room for God. So you need to make room for God to just flow through, and the answers will come. It'll seem miraculously, but it's not a miracle. It's just God by means of you being you. So we take our mind off the problem and we put our mind on God. Remember, the law of mind functions through our law of belief. So it is whatever we believe. You're a conscious thinker, and what you think about consciously becomes a law in your life. Now, among many of the traditions in Christmas, we bake, don't we? We cook a lot of cookies. I baked a group of Lebkuchen cookies for my brother once for Christmas, and somehow or another, I forgot one of the ingredients. And trust me, it's like the batter was so stiff and the cookies tasted so awful. So think about creating something in your life. What does it take? First of all, you have to focus on what it is you're baking, right? I'm going to make chocolate chip cookies. Then you have to go out and you have to gather all those ingredients, right? If you miss one of those ingredients, it's not going to taste like chocolate chip cookies anymore. So then you gather all the ingredients, you mix them, you follow the instructions to cook them as you're supposed to, and voila, you have cookies. It's the same with life. There is a formula. And if you do everything in its aligned way, things show up. If things aren't showing up the way you want, just go back to the initial steps and say, where did I go awry? Where did I miss out on things? So remember, the subconscious mind is the producer of your experience, and it's done into you as you believe. And that important word is as, right? The word as is very important, not what you believe. It's done unto you as you believe. So in closing, let the divine presence of God be your guide. Seek out the blessings in everyday life, in everyday ordinary things, and even in great big things. See if what you gaze upon doesn't grow exponentially and give you blessings every day. And in the immortal words of Tiny Tim, God bless us, everyone. And now, an additional Christmas blessing for you. What follows is Reverend David Mosher's recounting of a conversation with Mary, Mother of Jesus, assisted by Michelle Gillette.
I've had many years of being a wife and a mother. My children are all grown now. But even after all these years, I still remember that ride to Bethlehem. I was young, uncertain, getting ready to have my first child, riding on the back of a donkey for miles and miles and miles. I have never been so uncomfortable in my whole life. But it was that discomfort, riding on the back of that donkey, that helped me realize my power. The power that lies in my choices. I've always known I had the power to choose how I would respond to life. Maybe that's what Joseph meant when he said, "You're different." Not bad, just different. One of my earliest choices was to trust the angel voice here in my heart. I've heard it since I was a little child. In fact, I can't remember a time when I haven't heard that inner voice. Listening to my angel, as I call it, has sometimes led me into trouble. Like the time I was 8, it was a hot day, and my angel said, "Oh, let's leave the barley harvest and go wade in the river." Oh, did I get scolded for that. And yet I was there wading in the river when Miriam's baby fell into the river, and I still think to this day that I helped that child from drowning. Mama taught me that God is part of everything that happens. She said, "Mary, it's all God." She was right. When I become really quiet and listen to my angel, I can feel a presence and a love that makes everything safe and whole. It is as if I am enfolded in the arms of God and nothing can harm me, no matter what might happen. As a girl and a young woman, I've had little control over the events of my life. Yet my angel voice always encourages me to choose how I respond to every circumstance. When I was little, my choices were whether I would love my parents after they punished me, or I could find something good about cooked carrots or laundry day. As I became a woman, my choices became more important. When my angel first told me I was blessed and would be having a son, I was terrified. I was scared. Yet as the angel continued to speak that day, the most loving, peaceful feeling came over me. I felt as though I was a speck of sunlight in the heart of the sun, and love was what I was, dancing in the light, basking in the warmth. How could I be anything but happy? Right then, I committed to loving this little one, even if the whole world was against him. It was that choice that gave me the strength to face the questions and the events that surrounded his birth. And it was riding on that donkey, the back of that donkey, cold and hurting, when I chose to commit to responding with love in every moment of my life. I chose love the entirety of my life. When I made that choice, my heart opened to a light, love, peace that has stayed with me. That choice of love has defined my life. May Allah bless you and keep you. Amen.